Joe was walking down the street and had just one of the worst days that he's had in a very, very long time. His wife just left him. Left him for a little midget, 3'5", hairy little man. 10 years older than her, too. Left for a 43-year-old midget with more hair than one of those shaggy-looking mop dogs. Actually, he looked kind of like one of those mop dogs, but walking on two legs, but with the little stubby fingers. But even though dogs don't have fingers, this guy had those little stubby fingers too, like the midgets do. Anyway, just lost his job too because he was crying, customer service, crying about his wife leaving him for his little 3'5" hairy midget. The customer complained, and Joe lost his job. His boss, Ryan, brought him in and told him, be a man, don't cry over this. So, Joe's walking down the street, walks into the bar. Bartender says, what's wrong with you? You look like hell. Joe says, I gotta tell you, man, it's been one of the worst days of my life. Me and my wife met 10 years ago at a watermelon convention. She was feeling the watermelons, and I was looking for a good, really ripe, solid watermelon, and I really had no idea how to check for them, so she showed me, and we both touched the watermelon, the same watermelon, at the same time, feeling it for its firmness, and that's when we made this connection, a connection that I had never had with any other woman in the world, except for maybe my mother, but that was a non-sexual, non-watermelon connection that we had together. So, we started dating. We took things slow. Had a couple dates at a local shrimp place that only serves raw shrimp. Yeah, very, very sick off of the raw shrimp. Many times. Delicious cocktail sauce, though. The cocktail sauce was great. So, things were great. We got married in the spring. Nice spring wedding outside. Birds flying above us, all sorts of different birds. Crows, seagulls, boobies, cardinals. Any bird you could think of was probably flying above us. They were even happy. There was all sorts of animals that just came and to witness this beautiful connection that we had during our nuptials. And anyway, all that seems like it was for nothing, because now she's with a man who I could punt into the next state if I wanted to. A man who needs to stand on a stool to shave, although he looks like he never has shaved in his life. And that's where I'm at in my life. Bartender looks at Joe and says, well, that's a terrible story. I've been with my wife for 13 years. We still bang every night. Our sex is better than ever. We don't have any kids. We don't want those little bastards running around destroying our sex life. Joe says, geez, bartender, lay off. That's a little harsh. You need to try to identify with me. That's part of your job, isn't it? Bartender says, well, yeah, I suppose. Anyway, proceed. So Joe says, and upon learning of her getting with this small, puny man, I broke down at my job at customer service as an onion salesperson and told our biggest onion client that I just don't know what to do anymore. My wife was my entire life. Everything revolved around her. So our biggest onion sales or customer called my sales manager and said, we can't have your salespeople crying to us on the phone. It makes you look weak. We understand that men are supposed to cry sometimes and be fairly sensitive, but not on a sales call. Not when you don't have the onions directly in front of you. It's unacceptable to cry about onions. And my manager said, well, he wasn't really crying about onions. He was crying about his whore of a wife who left for this tiny man that can be fit into a small duffel bag, maybe even a backpack, and hiked with on your back. You could fit into a little baby carrier if you wanted to. And the manager said, well, that's not the point of how small he is. The point is he shouldn't be crying over onions, over small people, over women, over anything. He should just be trying to land the sale. The bartender says, wow, 2 for 2, man. You lost your job and your wife in the same day. Your boss really has no sympathy for you at all. Joe says, yeah, well, bartender, by the way, we've been talking for a while. What's your name? He says, my name is Jack. Joe says, like in Jack Daniels? Jack said, no, my last name is not Daniels. It's Frederick. Jack Frederick. You have a first name and a first name as a last name. Jack said, I get that all the time. It's not funny. My name is Jack Frederick. What can I get you to drink? So Joe says, it's been a long, difficult day. On top of those things, my car got repossessed. Wasn't a great car, but it was a reliable car. There was some rust starting to form around the fenders, but that's a normal thing for a car of 8 years old. And I didn't like the rust. It was a reliable car. It was like an eyesore. It was like seeing my wife with a midget. My wife being the car, the midget being the rust on the fender. Bartender said, well, what kind of car was it? It was a Cadillac. I didn't expect Cadillacs to rust. That's why I bought the Cadillac. It was a beautiful car when I first got it. Just like my wife was a beautiful human being when I first married her. Bartender said, okay, enough of the small talk. Can I get you to drink? Joe says, well, it definitely needs something strong for the day that I've had today. Need something that's going to make me forget all my worries. Something that brings me back. I'd like a glass of milk. Bartender says, milk? What are you, some kind of psycho? We're a respectable bar. We serve alcoholic drinks. Maybe the occasional soft drink like soda or pop, or depending on where you're from, you call it pop. Most people that aren't crazy call it soda. I don't serve milk here. Joe says, oh, I'm sorry. I really wanted some milk. Bartender says, you are insane. Get out of my bar.